the kid you hear playing the piano. He's not mine. On top of the 2 weekly piano lessons and finger yoga, I give my son Smarty Pants vitamins to support his brain health because while I'm supposed to say it's not a competition, of course it's a f***ing competition. Choose Smarty Pants vitamins to support your kid's brain health and help them master whatever their chopsticks may be. Shop on Amazon, smartypantsvitamins.com, or at Target today.
Prime delivery is fast. How fast are we talking? We're talking puzzle toys and lick pad delivered so fast you can get this puppy under control fast. Pee pads, cooling mat, peg hammer, fast and fast. And those training TREATS, faster than you can say sit fast. Fast, free delivery. It's on Prime.
Unfiltered discussions. Unexpected guests. No topic is off limits. From sex and relationships to the human condition, personal anxieties, and so much more. The only talk show of its kind in the world. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Welcome to The Last Show. I'm Caitlin Green, keeping you company while David Cooper's away. Tonight, you'll get some free therapy on Therapy Thursday on a Wednesday, where we'll cover breakups, back-to-school stress, and being a good partner. And if solo travel's on your mind, you're not alone. Travel writer and TV host Natalie Preddie shares why more people are booking trips for one. Plus, we'll break down what obstacle parenting is, why women feel guilty about gaming, and so much more. So up first, my conversation with therapist Gary Direnfeld. There was a recent study that came out, and it plays into the whole conversation that is ever present around love languages. I actually don't know what love language I am. I've been asked this mostly by my female friends, like, oh, well, what love language are you? I don't know what it is. What are love languages, and kind of what did they say? Because this study found that women favor sweet actions over sweet words in romantic partners.
Right. So I oh my goodness, I'm scratching my brain here. I think it was brought out by the Gottmans in Vancouver. There's apparently these 4 love languages: acts of service, words.
Okay, hold on, because I've had this conversation with enough girlfriends in my life now that I think
you're going to be better at this than me.
I think it's acts of service, words of affirmation.
I
think one is like physical touch is another one. And then is gifts another one? Or is that an act of service? It could be gifts. Hey, who knows? But you've heard about love languages. Like, it's around.
Yes. It's a thing more so in popular psychology than in,
real psychology?
Real psychology.
I can say that, you can't.
But yeah, there are these studies. They keep coming up in terms of who prefers what and who prefers what more. And the one you're referencing, it's looking at the differences between men and women and who prefers, those affirmations, I love you, you're beautiful, you're great, versus acts of service, helping take out the garbage, getting the dishes done, preparing a meal. And, lo and behold, it seems that women prefer those acts of service to those words of endearment. For the men, it's the opposite. They seem to prefer the words of endearment versus the acts of service. Now, I have a gender-based bias against this whole notion, this whole piece of research. I think that the research is gender biased, and I think the reason men may prefer the words of affirmation or love is because, quite frankly, women are still doing all the work.
And the words right out of my mouth.
Okay, and the reason the women prefer to see a guy maybe in an apron is because, for crying out loud, pull your weight, buddy. And then, holy mackerel, you look like you love me when you're pulling your weight and doing things around the house.
Yeah.
So I just think that this reflects gender differences and gender expectations more than anything else.
Yeah, because certainly, of course, the guys surveyed are going to say, yeah, I really like being told that I'm handsome and wonderful over having the house cleaned because you live in the clean house already.
Feed my narcissistic interests.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because I certainly have seen so many studies that, like you said, make their way through popular psychology, but also through popular articles and things we see in the media business a lot, given as, possible topics that start trending, things that we could discuss. And it's a lot about, that the act of doing chores around the house could be viewed as like foreplay for women. That like women...
There's plenty of research to show that before this article ever came around. That like if it's not happening in the bedroom, it's likely not happening, from the kitchen table or the stove or anything else. If you want to look sexy, get stuff done.
Yeah. And I think it's why women tend to find, you see someone who's a carpenter, the home reno shows viewed by so many women, chefs, like people who are presenting themselves as like useful. Maybe there is something in your brain and in your day-to-day life that all of a sudden clicks in and is like, I find that attractive because maybe you're doing all the work at home. I also think it makes perfect sense that the woman who's doing all the work at home is tired at the end of the day, is worn out, and doesn't particularly probably feel very hot. Like you probably don't feel great about yourself, like this confident sort of sexually desirable person, if you are spending your whole day doing domestic duties. Like that's not a hot. Yeah, it's not a hot existence.
And oh my God, for me, discussions on women's lib goes back to the 1960s. I'm 69 years of age, so I remember that stuff then, and I remember it through the 70s and 80s. And for as much as society has seemingly advanced around gender equality, we are nowhere near it by any means. And so the women that we are talking about are out there working as much, if not more, than the men. And then they come home and they still carry the lion's share of the household duties and expectations. So apropos what you're saying, they're spent. They're spent. And, if you want to feel amorous in the bedroom, take care of them throughout the house.
Yeah, I think so too, because I credit my husband, who's always been very, very good at this on his own. I think that behavior was modeled for him quite well growing up. He has a father who loves to cook. I don't know that he's like the best cook in the world, but that's the proof that you don't need to be the best cook in the world.
You don't need to be.
It's the effort. And his parents have a very happy marriage, and his dad is just one of those guys who wants to have a tidy house, so he doesn't wait for somebody else to do it. He does it. And my husband is the same way. And that's a very attractive thing in someone, because if you're both born into a nub, you've worked a long day, you have young children, and you think, man, I've done all this myself. There's such an inequality happening here. It's going to be a problem for you in your romantic relationship. And I wonder, that's probably something you've seen modeled in real life in the people and patients that you've had.
The distribution of household tasks is almost always an issue, if not the issue. And again, it's based on gender lines. And I find it's easy to wake up the woman to these issues because, quite frankly, they come in already aware of them. The challenge is getting some of these guys on board, and it can't be a fleeting, okay, I did this, and you're not going to get a pat on the back because you did the dishes once or you made a meal. This is something, it's a lifestyle. You have to be consistent. This has to be part of your life, that you take as much responsibility around the home as does your partner.
And I think it's just funny to me because I always would see like the studies or the headlines or the articles would try to directly link the increase of household chores to increased sexual activity for couples. And I wondered if it was a way to sort of like breadcrumb the interest of the male partners. Like if you tie it into that, did the author of the study think that they would then be more engaged? Like, I don't know, but it's kind of tale as old as time to me. I definitely, a nice thing done for anyone goes a really long way. Like physically showing that you care is of so much more value than just saying it all the time. And I think words can over time feel really empty if someone's telling you how much they love you in a house that's a mess with no groceries.
Show me, don't tell me.
Okay, I love this. My guest, of course, it's therapist Gary Direnfeld here for Therapy Thursday on a Wednesday. When we get back, we're going to talk about how to handle a breakup, where not to turn, some tips on what you can possibly do. And I guess we'll put grocery shop and clean the house will maybe be top of that list. So we'll be back next.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. Checking off the boxes on your to-do list is a great feeling. And when it comes to checking off coverage, a State Farm agent can help you choose an option that's right for you. Whether you prefer talking in person, on the phone, or using the award-winning app, it's nice knowing you have help finding coverage that best fits your needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
This is your invitation to a journey where relationships are dissected, science is simplified, and the news is hilariously twisted. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Welcome back to Therapy Thursday on a Wednesday. I am joined by therapist Gary Direnfeld. I think that your joining is very fortuitous at the midweek point because I always find Wednesdays feel like when I've built up enough stress and that I can feel it. I'm a bit burnt out. I'm a bit crispy, but I also know that I have 2 more days of the work week left. I don't know why Wednesdays always feel like this for me.
Now, if you're crispy, are you also prickly? Like, does it affect you that way?
Yeah, I can catch myself. I will intervene, but I know that I have a bit of a predilection towards being cranky. But in my experience, when I get cranky, my stresses tend to stack up versus reduce. So I've had to intervene and give myself a little moment. I actually am one of these weird people who de-stresses by watching ASMR videos.
I don't know what ASMR is.
You were about to say something that was not.
Yeah.
ASMR is an acronym that stands, I believe, and I could be getting this wrong, but for auditory sensory meridian response. Essentially, it's a feeling that certain voices have always given me of deep relaxation. Now, unfortunately for me, I discovered this as a kid because my math tutor had a very calming voice. And her voice, while she was trying to teach me about math, would put me to sleep. But she just happened to have an accent and just a very soothing, relaxing tone.
Okay.
And so I find these videos very relaxing when it's about like towel folding, kind of like inane activities, household chores that someone's just describing.
Yes.
And it's sort of unintentional. There's a lot out there that are like whispering and clacking. I don't like that. I just like a very relaxing voice, a very relaxed person describing a great way to fold napkins. I don't know why, but it's sort of like puts me to sleep. And so you're the stand-in for ASMR here.
I am the stand-in. I will be that voice, Caitlin.
You would actually probably have a decent ASMR voice, now that I think about it.
I'm Fraser Crane.
Yeah, you are. You definitely are. Well, and it's also, I mean, it's like, it's back to school. I have a lot of friends who are citing this as being a particularly stressful week or series of weeks.
It is, absolutely. So everyone involved is going nuts. The teachers are going nuts. The educational assistants are going nuts. The bus drivers are going nuts. The parents are going nuts. The students are going nuts. Not all of them, come on. But it is very stressful. You know, we're coming off, or the kids are coming off relaxing, supposedly during the summer. And now the expectations are turned back on, the earlier bedtimes that no kid wants. So this is a tough week. And I tell parents, just like I asked you, were you prickly when you're crusty? If that was the word.
I said crispy because you're burnt out. So when I get burnt out, I like to say I'm a little crispy. Yeah.
And so I tell parents, when your kids come home at end of day, they may be crispy, prickly, and it's fatigue Don't get caught up in behavior when the issue is fatigue. Instead, offer some rest, offer a healthy snack, some nutrition, and let that, pull the child through until they ease back into things.
Kind of to our previous conversation around helping out around the house and how being hot essentially is useful and likely appealing in a partner. I think about the value also of leisure time and what that can do for people to decompress, and sort of also the guilt that can arise for people, I think especially women, around not doing anything, around just sort of sitting on your phone or reading a book or sitting outside. Just the stress we place upon ourselves to be optimizing our time every hour of the day, I think is not helpful, and it can get passed off onto our kids as well, because they have to run around from activity to activity and do their homework, and it's burnout culture in your household.
Yeah, we don't have to be productive 24/7. We all get to turn it off. We all get to, you like the ASMR videos that you've explained to me. Mm-hmm. We all need to decompress, and whatever works for you is fine.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I like that little reminder for everyone. So now the other thing I wanted to talk about, and you'll notice this as a therapist and just as myself as a person who follows pop culture, is the conversations popping up everywhere and in every category about AI. And there's a lot of people who are concerned about using chatbots, ChatGPT specifically, when you're in a time of, I guess, mental health. I don't want to say crisis, but like you're not doing so well. Maybe you're depressed. Maybe something's happened. And there was one headline in particular that started making its rounds online and on social about a man who was talking to ChatGPT following a breakup. And at one point when he was kind of in crisis, he said that the chatbot encouraged him to jump off of a 16th floor of a building. It told him that he would be able to fly. Like, again, just driving home the point that you're not talking to a real person. You're talking to something that is designed to kind of go along with whatever you're going to say and to be ultimately very agreeable. So, I mean, we've issued that warning here on the show many times over. But I think the larger conversation that is valid is that people are turning to these chatbots in their times of need, and especially around breakups. Like, I mean, myself personally, but my own friends and family, they have been at their lowest when they are going through a breakup. And I think that can be one of the biggest challenges so many people face in their life for their mental health as well. And I'm seeing my girlfriends talking about their breakups with ChatGPT. Do I think they start there by saying, hey, I'm really, really sad, this guy just dumped me? No, but I think what happens is they get into these protracted back and forths with their ex while they're breaking up, and they ask for help crafting an email or figuring out how to give a response to something, a very practical request of ChatGPT, but then it remembers it. And then they're more and more comfortable talking about this breakup and their personal life with the chatbot. So as a real person who has real world skills, how do you feel about that relationship that people may have when they're in a breakup situation?
First of all, I like how you have gone over the slippery slope that, innocuously a friend can go to ChatGPT, go to the internet and put in a request, how do I frame, it's not you, it's me.
Exactly.
to my partner who looks and sounds this way. How do I do that? And there will be good responses. Now, people have to appreciate one of the goals of any AI is to keep the person online as much as possible. Mm-hmm. To keep you using the device as much as possible, because the degree to which you use it, it generates revenue.
Yeah.
Okay. The degree to which you're hooked on it, it generates revenue. So these things are built to be remarkably engaging, and they pull from the world of online information, but they pull indiscriminately. So, the bulk of that online information, how do I separate from my, partner? There will be tons of good advice and predominantly reasonable advice. There's going to be garbage.
So much garbage.
That's right. And so when you're using ChatGPT, when you're using AI, you have to have your own wits about you and think to yourself, is this truly reasonable? Does this really fit my situation? And some persons are tremendously vulnerable, and they may not be putting that piece of reflection into their use of AI, and it can put them at risk of harm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So, if you were, and listen, the other appeal to ChatGPT and the like is, for the most part, many of these things are free. To sit in front of a therapist will cost $100 to $300 per hour, depending on who and where and how often. So it's very appealing to use these devices, but you have to be the screener of the information you receive.
This has been your weekly dose of free therapy that doesn't come from a chatbot. It comes from longtime therapist Gary Direnfeld. This has been Therapy Thursday on a Wednesday. Thank you so much, Gary, for giving us our mental health break today.
So good chatting with you, Caitlin.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Abercrombie Kids is bringing the ultimate first day energy back to school. It all starts with on-trend outfits for that front door photo shoot. Plus, the coolest tees, shorts, and jeans to take them through the rest of the year. Get them ready for their close-up and keep them comfy too. Make this grade their best one yet. Shop all things back to school, in-store, online, and in the app.
Broadcasting from the neutral zone, where every perspective gets diplomatic immunity. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Welcome back to The Last Show. I'm Caitlin Green, in for David Cooper, who is still off on vacation. And here to talk about vacations is Natalie Preddie. She's a travel host, journalist, media personality, host of the show Get Lost, which you can catch on Breakfast Television, of course, also on YouTube and all of her socials. I want to talk to you about solo travel, Natalie. I'm so thrilled that you're here. Have you embarked on a solo travel journey? And do you see an uptick in solo travel interest right now?
So yes and yes. I went on my first solo journey, like 20 years ago. But when I was flying this weekend, I saw an unaccompanied minor on the plane. And I thought, oh, yeah, I did that. And I remember being like 11 years old and flying by myself over to England to go visit my mom's family. So I'm like, oh, I've always been doing this. But of course, things are very different now than they were back then. But saying that, there was this fantastic survey that came out recently on Journey Woman. Now, Journey Woman is a platform that focuses on solo travel for women over 50. And the highest the demographic that is showing the largest increase in solo travel is women aged 65 to 74.
Okay, this totally gels with what I've seen in my day-to-day life. And it's that whether the women are unpartnered or even partnered, that it's, especially if they have husbands, a lot of those husbands, now that they're retired, don't have the same level of interest in travel as their wives. Their wives are interested in going to Europe, going to Iceland, going to these amazing faraway places. And the husbands are just saying, we've got the cottage, or I've got a golf membership and I really want to go. I want to go golfing and then I want to go home and sit on my dock. Like, that's really it.
Yeah. And you know what? Like my mom does this trip. When she retired, she did this trip called Hell to the Bell. And she was a teacher, or she was a principal, but it was all her teacher friends. And in September, instead of going to school, they did a Hell to the Bell trip and they went somewhere in Europe for like 3 weeks and
I love it.
Isn't it awesome? So she's been doing that since she retired. And this year she's going to Croatia for 3 weeks.
Wow.
And yeah, she does it every year with her friends, and they island hop or they go through Italy, and they have the best time. But we're seeing this. We're seeing, a lot of people, especially post-pandemic, are saying, okay, I want to go and I want to travel and I might not have anyone to do it with. So I'm going on my own. I'm just doing it. And of course, in that age category, you have, people who are widowed, people who are divorced, or again, their partner just doesn't want to go. So, they are going on their own. The only issue, and we're seeing a decrease of this, is there are a lot of single supplements for hotel rooms. And that's been a real barrier for people in the past because, why should I have to pay more because I want to travel on my own? So actually, Journeywoman is, they've been working with a lot of different tourism boards and agencies to try and eliminate that single supplement for women who want to travel. And we're seeing a lot of women, younger women as well, now saying, you know what, I want to go. I want to, for whatever reason, maybe, the phase of life I was having babies or I was in school or I was wherever. And they're just going. And I read an article today, actually, in The Atlantic about how millennials are the generation that are most willing to go into debt to travel. But I think that says, about where our priorities have shifted overall as a society. But, within that, we are seeing people taking these opportunities to explore and to live abroad for a bit or to learn something, to experience something that's a little bit different. So we are seeing that. Yes. And I was in Mexico City earlier this year.
Oh, that's top of my list. So many people have been going there recently and raving about it.
It is so cool. It is like I feel like I saw the tiniest little piece of it, and there's so much more to see. But there were so many solo women travelers that I met, and it's because it's safe, it's clean, it feels accessible, it's not overly expensive, and I think it's 3 or 4 of the world's top bars are in Mexico City.
Yeah. So a lot of my friends who have been going have been single female travelers, and they will go, maybe alone for a portion of the trip and then meet up with other friends. A lot of them have been also solo male travelers, the same deal. Or occasionally couples, but it's been a lot of single, like as in unpartnered travelers who are going down together, and they are saying exactly what you just did: the amazing bars, the amazing restaurants, the amazing nightlife. I have a lot of friends who are very successful designers, or they work in architecture, and they are, they just rave about what a beautiful city it is just to look at.
Beautiful. Yes, the art there is stunning, and they have so much outdoor art as well, and it's so accessible. I mean, you could spend your day walking through indoor and outdoor galleries, these phenomenal structures, and it's always been a really exciting place for modern art. And it just continues and to innovate and to really challenge what we think we know about art. It's a beautiful place with so much culture, and the food. Have I talked about the food yet? Oh my gosh.
The food, I mean, it feels like it should go without saying, but when the chefs that are coming out of Mexico City, the restaurants are very, very top tier. And I appreciate that, much like it also is making us rethink art, I believe that it's making us rethink a lot of the preconceived notions people have about Mexico. I mean, of course, Mexico struggles with safety. There's lots of statistics around, people who have had dangerous experiences there. There's travel warnings. It's regularly featured as part of a travel warning. But I'm appreciating that there are travelers who are giving firsthand accounts of the way that they have made travel there safe, things that they're avoiding, places that they're avoiding, and there's sort of more of a conversation around the safe way to travel versus just blanket saying, I'm not going to go to this place anymore. Because I think that I grew up with one version of what I figured Mexico City would be like. I thought it was this big, unsafe, very polluted place. And sure, pieces of that story can be true about just about anywhere. But I remember being warned about places like Paris or Barcelona, and I would go there and have really great experiences. But I did keep a few key things in mind when I was there.
Absolutely. And I mean, there are things that you need to remember. I know social media, we love to share, right? We love to share where we are, where we're staying, what we're doing. And, I will never post where I'm staying while I'm staying there, just because it's easy for people to find you then, and you are advertising to the entire world that you are by yourself in a public place, right? So like just be smart about that.
Like, bring back the latergram. We all used to do this. You don't need to post everything in the moment. I don't think social media is viewed through the lens of this is happening right now in the same way that it used to be. It's perfectly acceptable to post a carousel of things you did over the last few weeks and not needing for it to be in the moment. Also, again, the maps feature on Instagram that rolled out, I think created a really good conversation with people about location sharing and how easy it could be for people to piece together where you are and that you're alone.
Absolutely. And, I think as well, I heard this for solo travelers years ago, and I didn't really think about it, but I hear it more and more recently, even wearing a ring on your finger, even that will deter people because they think, okay, someone's coming. She's not alone. I don't know who that person is. Are they bigger than me? Are they going to not like that I'm talking to their girl or whatever? So that, something as simple as that can be a deterrent for people and just gives you an extra layer of protection. But also, I always say, let people know where you're going at home. Right. So, if I'm traveling alone, I let my parents and my husband know where I'm staying, generally what my plans are, how I can be contacted, and, have a time that I will check in just so there is someone looking for me. Right. There is someone who is aware that I have gone out and maybe not checked in, that is going to follow up, that is going to call the hotel, just so you've got that extra, again, another layer of security.
My guest is Natalie Preddie. She's a travel host, travel journalist, media personality. I'm going to steal her for a little bit more time. I want to talk to you about a recent trip you took to Thailand and just get into a few more tips and tricks for anyone who wants to travel solo.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
When did making plans get this complicated? It's time to streamline with WhatsApp, the secure messaging app that brings the whole group together. Use polls to settle dinner plans. Send event invites and pin messages so no one forgets Mom's 60th. And never miss a meme or milestone. All protected with end-to-end encryption. It's time for WhatsApp. Message privately with everyone. Learn more at whatsapp.com.
Where intellectual honesty gets witness protection from social prosecution. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Welcome back to The Last Show. I'm Caitlin Green, in for David Cooper, joined again by travel host, travel journalist, media personality Natalie Preddie. We've been talking about traveling solo, the increase in interest for people to travel solo, specifically women. And as a result, I think there's a lot of conversations and articles that are being shared online about how to do so safely, things to avoid doing, things to make note of. One of the things I also saw was the importance of packing a reliable power source, not just a charger, but perhaps a battery pack. Because when you are traveling alone, your phone really is such a safety net for you, not just when it comes to logistics, but like personal security.
Absolutely. There are a few things that I always travel with. That's one of them. I do travel with a little case, which is lots of different cords. I have the universal plug, which I can use anywhere. But then I have the USB, and then one that has a USB-C, and then one that has, the older iPod. Oh my gosh, iPod. That's how old I am. But the iPad charger. So I have access to power when I need it, because you're right, it is very much a lifeline. What else? Something as simple as a doorstop. Yeah. When you are staying at a hotel, put that behind your door. Just even if that just helps you feel more secure. I mean, the likelihood of someone coming into your room is very, very slim, but it's just, a nice to have. They have door lock alarms as well, which you can travel with. And then some women travel with personal alarms as well. So if you need to pull one of those, and they're very discreet, and you can put them in your hand or put them on your keys. And then, of course, there are things like maybe not walking with your headphones on, just so you're aware, especially in a new place. And it allows you to be more aware of people walking beside you, or, people coming up behind you. And some places will even say pepper spray, which isn't legal everywhere.
Yeah.
So maybe don't, check before you put that into your bag. But, it's just personal safety. And, these are things that we do at home as well, right? I remember as a kid or as a teenager being told to walk with your keys in your
Yeah.
fists, right? So, I mean, as women, unfortunately, these are safety features that are just in our day-to-day lives. And you carry them with you wherever you go. Don't go down an alley that you don't know at 3 o'clock in the morning, wherever you are,
That's that's common sense in Toronto where we live, right? Like, I wouldn't do that here. And it's part
Exactly.
of another piece of advice I saw being shared, which was really about don't ignore your own safety instincts. A lot of times in life, men, women, everybody can fall into this idea of they don't want to be impolite. They don't want to be perceived as not being friendly. But if an elevator door opens and there's a person who gives you a bad vibe standing there, just say, "Oh, I'm waiting for the next one," or "I'm meeting someone." Don't worry. Like, you don't have to make everybody else feel comfortable. If something feels off to you, go away from it. Just move away from that and don't worry about what anyone else is thinking.
No, follow your gut. And that's like my biggest piece of advice, just, in life. Follow your gut. And because that's going to take you so far. And especially as women, we seem to be born with this heightened sense of awareness in our gut. And I think that that's something you really need to tune into when you're traveling by yourself.
And there are group tours that obviously, you travel the whole way together. You can fly there, you can stay at the same hotels. They'll have bus tours. But when you get to a city, if you get there alone and you're planning to be alone, I'm seeing a lot of people recommend join a group walking tour of the city just for the day, because solo travel doesn't have to mean isolated travel. It doesn't have to mean that you're alone the whole time. Maybe if you're going to a place that's renowned for its food, take a cooking class while you're there. If you have the same interests that you have at home, engage with local communities there to do those same things and take classes and take tours.
Absolutely. I love a local cooking class. I have been taking them everywhere that I go. I just did one in Thailand and it was amazing. And, this woman walked us through her garden and her farm and like how she composts and the worms that she grew and then all the different herbs, and then we went in and then we cooked together. So you're absolutely right. We're seeing more and more of those experiences. I love a food tour. You meet so many people. Going back to Mexico City, I went on a lucha libre.
What's lucha libre for everyone listening?
So lucha libre is the Mexican wrestling where they wear the big mask.
Yes.
Yes. And it's kind of like Mexican WWF.
Okay.
If I'm honest.
Okay.
But we thought we had to check it out. It's something that is supposed to be culturally entertaining. So we did. But my point is we were able to, join this walking tour in this group. We got to go to a poke, which is like a hall or a bar where people come after work. If you are Mexican, live in Mexico City, and you dance, and it was so cool to see this place where it was just people enjoying their 5 o'clock drinks before going home, kind of like the pub concept in England. And we got to meet other travelers as well. So I absolutely say find a tour, learn about the city, try the new food, cooking class. It's such a great way to travel and really immerse yourself in the culture. And it's sustainable because you are working with local businesses, local people. So being a tourist, this is how we should be traveling. If we're going to places, we're not taking, we are giving something back.
That is the perfect lead in then, because we were talking about your wonderful tour that you had when you were in Thailand, to talk about your trip to Thailand. The last time you were with me, which was a little while ago now, I think over a week ago, we were talking about this amazing trip that you're revisiting, an important place in your life, which was Thailand. You had lived there. You were reconnecting with people. You were taking your husband with you for this trip, and kind of the power of revisiting a place that you used to be very different person. You were a very different person. It was a very different time in your life, and then going back later on and what that's like for you. So what was this trip like for you, and when is this incredible article coming out?
So the article will be out in Canada in November. there were times I'm still like going through it. I have so many notes to go through, but it was, I found the place where I used to live, like in this 20 years ago, in this like hut on the beach. It was amazing. And to show my husband this it was exciting. And, he asked questions about, people that I saw and people that I knew and things that I did when I was there. When I was there the first time, I had watched the beach and I, kind of followed the backpacker route and, looking for this traveler that I wanted to be. And I felt like Thailand was a place where I could be anything. And when I went back, I thought, okay, well, now I'm a mom and now I'm a wife and, everything has to change. And, I'd say to my husband, oh, we should leave. We're too old to be here for this. And he'd say, why? Okay, well, we shouldn't be doing this. We're too old to do this. He's like, why? So again, I went back in this different space, but it was still a country that gave me the space to explore myself and be something different.
Do you feel like your time in Thailand when you were younger informed some of your career path today? Because it's not lost on me that you like obviously you were someone who was drawn to living in a different place. You've certainly always traveled in your life, but you live in this amazing exotic location. And when you come back, you're like, yeah, now I'm a travel writer.
Absolutely. Because I thought, you know what? I love exploring new places, meeting new people, finding new stories, amplifying these voices that may not get heard otherwise. How do I make this into a job? And it kind of took me a while and, writing to people and pitching out these stories. And eventually it kind of snowballed into the career that it is now. And which, there are even more places I'd love to take. I mean, my dream is to host something on Discovery or something like that.
So I love it. I honestly can't wait. So check out that article that's going to be coming out in Elle Canada in November. Natalie Preddie, travel host, journalist, media personality extraordinaire. Thank you so much for joining me again. This has been such a pleasure.
Thank you.
Want to be part of The Last Show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
At Sierra, discover top workout gear at incredible prices, which might lead to another discovery. Your headphones haven't been connected this whole time. Awkward. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
Broadcasting intimate confessions and useless obsessions. You're listening to The Last Show with David Cooper.
This is The Last Show. I'm Caitlin Green in for David Cooper, and I'm part of the 61% of Canadians who have kids. I have one child. I'm the proud owner of a 3-year-old boy, and my next guest is also part of that 61% and just published a fantastic piece in The Walrus where she is a contributor about the value of making our kids' lives a little harder, which I'm very interested in discussing because it flies in the face of how I tend to live my day-to-day life with my son. So my guest today is Michelle Cyca. Michelle, thank you so much for talking with me about this today and kind of challenging a little bit of the way I'm leading my life, following my son around with hand sanitizer and puffs and ice water. And I don't know, maybe I need to just stop doing this.
I mean, you would have more free hands. Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
I would. And I hate carrying things. So this is actually just good advice. So yeah, it's literally titled, "My Job as a Parent is to Make My Kids' Lives a Little Harder." And then the subheading was, "Obstacle parenting is about cultivating focus and endurance, 2 skills lost in the ChatGPT era." Man, we are truly living in the ChatGPT era. Everything is designed to make our lives more convenient, but really, is it making us happier, more capable people? And I think most adults could probably look inward and say it's kind of not. And we're seeing a lot of results and research to show that it's not making our kids feel that way either.
Yeah, I mean, I think like most adults, I would say I have like a problematic relationship with my phone where I'm always looking at it, but I'm like, why am I looking at my phone? Like, I don't need anything from it right now, but it's like just filling any available gap in your attention. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, we're just wrapping up the summer. I have 2 kids, they're 2 and 6. Mm-hmm. And I feel like in some ways their childhood is really different from mine. Like I remember summer obviously is a really fun season, but also one where as a kid I was bored a lot. Like,
yes. Yeah.
It was nobody's job to entertain me. There were no iPads in the 90s. And so sometimes I would just be like lying around the house bored out of my mind, and you would have to come up with like some way to pass the time. And increasingly, I think that's sort of like a lost art. Like, kids have really fun summer camps. They have so many activities. Parents play with their children way more now. Like, new generations of parents are much more actively engaged all the time with their kids, whereas my parents were like, you know, amuse yourself. You have Legos, you have Hot Wheels, like, that is your job. And as I read these studies and these articles about like social media and ChatGPT and how kind of addictive those technologies are, I really want to make sure that my kids grow up able to like rely on their own minds and imaginations and attention spans to fill their time and not feel totally reliant on an adult or a device to help them through like any momentary discomfort, whether that's like boredom or frustration or like a long wait at the dentist's office, whatever. I think it's really important, and we're totally like removing that challenge from our kids' lives. And we're doing it because we love them. We want them to be like having fun. We want them to be happy. We don't want them to be whining because they're bored and we're trying to like answer an email. But I think it's a disservice if we don't give them the chance to like learn how to deal with boredom, whether that's 10 minutes or an hour or a whole afternoon.
And to learn to discover things that they might be interested in, that by being bored and having that free time and being forced to fill it yourself instead of having me rush around from park to play date to another park to next activity, you can actually on their own autonomously, they can kind of try to figure out what they're drawn to. Maybe that's art. Maybe if I start filling in the blanks for my son all the time, I'm curious to see what he's going to do on his own. But I do think it's tied to this other, maybe something that's becoming outdated, but this feeling that our kids do need to be in these activities all the time, and that you're not being an active and engaged parent if you're not introducing them to a million different things after they've already had a full day of school and activities at school. Like, that's the other thing. I have so many friends with older children than my own, and I think about how much busier they are at school, how structured their learning is all day long for 8 hours. And then they come home and they're whisked off to hockey or they're whisked off to swimming. And they are doing that right until they come back home when then they have homework again. So I was like, there's no downtime to experience some of the creativity that comes around just having nothing to do, just having free time.
Yeah, I think that's so important, is like the downtime. And it doesn't even have to yield anything in the moment. Like, you know, I feel like sometimes when my daughter has to amuse herself, she comes up with a really cool art project. She makes a really beautiful drawing. But even just the process of like trying to fill that hour, I think whatever the result is so valuable. And I mean, I think like we're so exposed now to other people's parenting styles, and like on social media, on Facebook, whatever, there's so much awareness of like the activities other people are putting their kids in. Or you see, if you're in any kind of parenting group online, you see people saying like, oh, you know, my kid is like only reading at this level. Is that normal? And then you see the cascade of other people comparing their children. I think we're so attuned to that. And there's a real sense that like your kid should be excelling at everything, or they should be constantly cultivating like skills and hobbies. There's very little space for downtime and for like, you know, letting them loose in a park with a stick to just poke around in the bushes. It doesn't all have to be optimized. There's such a self-optimization panic. Like, adults do it too. We're always like trying to hack our lives and hack our bodies. And I feel like we sort of transmit that anxiety onto our kids. We're trying to optimize their childhoods and their development all the time.
Yeah, it is no surprise to me that this is something that we've recreated in our children when we're so caught up in this hustle culture ourselves that no one can really enjoy leisure time. I recently spoke to an expert. She's actually a philosopher, but her focus is on women, specifically female gamers, and how they feel, the guilt that they feel around their leisure time being spent playing video games, even though it is something that they really enjoy, they say makes them happy. And it sparked a larger conversation between us about the value of leisure time, the value of having that free time in a world where you're being told that if you're not working, you need to be meal prepping or exercising, or like you said, just optimizing your time in this other way. So it doesn't surprise me that we're seeing a lot of unhealthy competitive parenting about, our kids, optimizing our kids' times. Oh, is your kid already in swim classes? Oh, shoot, we haven't done that yet. Do you do little kickers? Oh my gosh, we haven't had time for little kickers. Like I don't think this is a thing that stressed out previous generations in the way that it seems to stress out modern day parents. And I don't know that it's necessarily good for anyone. Like, I wonder who this is benefiting.
Yeah, I mean, it's benefiting the little kickers, big little kickers.
Yeah, you're right.
But, gymnastics gyms, they're making a killing based on those drop-in rates. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a real, and part of me thinks it comes from this parental guilt. Like, you have more working parents than you used to. And you also have just less time. I think a lot of Canadians are stressed. We're working hard. We have these long commutes. There's so much to do every day. And I think a lot of parents feel like this guilt that they can't focus 100% of their attention on their children, and they try and make up for it with, making sure that they're in activities, making sure they have lots of entertainment around the house. But I think that's, it's not necessary for your kid to have 100% of your attention. I think kids thrive having less attention sometimes and space to just do whatever they want to do without being sort of supervised or having a parent, help them through everything. Sometimes at the playground, you see, especially, I know you have another toddler, I have a toddler, you see parents helping them everywhere, mediating their interactions with other kids, being like, oh, do you want to say hello to him? Do you want to ask if he wants to share that toy? Do you want to go on the slide? Do you want to go on the swing? It's just, I think it's really constant, and it comes from this place of love and anxiety. We want to be showing our kids through our actions that we love them and that we're here for them. But I think, sometimes it's we're not thinking about the value of just removing ourselves from the picture a little bit and giving them space as a kind of love and care as well.
My guest has been Michelle Cyca, senior editor at the Narwhal and contributing writer to The Walrus. You can find her writing in Maclean's, Chatelaine, The Globe and Mail, many other places. Of course, we will link her article on obstacle parenting in our show notes because this is a podcast as well. Thank you so much, Michelle, for speaking with me today and making me feel a little bit better about not setting up 10,000 crafts when my kid gets home from daycare today.
Thanks, Caitlin. It was fun.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Streaming now on Peacock.
We sell toilet tissue and local newspapers. That is in order of quality.
From the crew that brought you The Office.
My name is Ned Sampson. I am your new editor-in-chief.
Comes a new comedy series.
Have you read this paper?
Uh-huh. It sucks. But we are going to make it better.
Meet the underdog journalists.
I hope it's not too disruptive to have me shake everything up.
Don't be so self-defecating.
With major issues.
Oscar. Oh, God. Not again.
The Paper. Only on Peacock. Streaming now.
Smart, sharp, and slightly unhinged. Late night's fresh perspective. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Welcome back to The Last Show. I'm Caitlin Green, in for David Cooper, and I'm joined now by Steph Rennick. And I'm about to say something I've never said about a person that I'm talking to in real life. She's a philosopher. I find this to just be endlessly cool because of how I imagine a philosopher to be. But anyways, she's also a lecturer at the University of Stirling. She focuses on interactive media, and some of the topics that she's interested in include video games, pop culture, technology, and gender studies. Some things I think that often intersect. So I wanted to speak with you, Steph, about an article that you wrote, along with some other people as well. But it was about a statistic that really caught my attention. It said that in 2025. That's why this surprised me, that nearly a third of female gamers feel guilty about their hobby. So Steph, first of all, to set this up, are you a gamer? What's your relationship like with video games?
I am a gamer, although I still feel uncomfortable having played many games and having worked on games hundreds of hours using that word, which maybe says as much about this study as anything else. But no, I play a lot of video games, particularly RPGs. And my work previously was looking at gender bias in video games. So in terms of what characters get to speak, who they get to speak to, what they use language to do. So this was really the first time that Sean Roberts, my research partner, and I had looked at the gamers themselves rather than the content of games.
Okay. And so when you're coming from a place where you're like still not sure about calling yourself that, what did you find in your research? What did you guys unearth about how female gamers feel about that word for themselves?
Great. So we surveyed 1,000 UK women who play mobile games. That was the kind of selection criteria. And this was with a games company. A games company contracted us to collaborate on this research because they were interested in how women felt about playing games. We found that of those 1,000 women, all of whom already play games, to be clear, and sometimes people get a bit funny about mobile games, more than half of those people play PC or console games daily. A quarter of them, of the 1,000, play PC or console games for more than an hour a day. So these are people that play a lot of video games. And almost a third of them, 29% of them, report feeling guilty about taking time to play video games. And even more extreme, about 16%, about 1 in 6 women report keeping secrets about playing video games for fear of judgment from family and friends.
Oh, okay. And was your research about sort of the fact that they felt like they were wasting time, or did they feel like the label was sort of not the norm for women specifically? Like, how were their feelings on that?
It's a great question. So we expected, based on all the leisure time studies. So we know, for example, that leisure time is unequally distributed among people of different genders and that women feel additional pressure to do things that are so-called productive with their leisure time. So
I'm putting my hand up on camera right now to be like, yeah, that is me. Okay.
Yeah. So we kind of expected that what might happen is that feeling guilty or keeping secrets about your gameplay might correlate with playing less, that feeling guilty might drive you to play less. That's what we expected. And that's not what we found. So weirdly, feeling guilty or keeping secrets don't make people play less. They just feel worse about it. What does make people feel less are a bunch of factors that we think are associated with feeling like games are not for you or that you're not welcome in gaming culture. So things like if you're embarrassed to call yourself a gamer, or if you think video games are too violent, or you're not sure what games to play, things like that. Women also felt guilty, were more likely to feel guilty if they were really proud of their gaming achievements.
Okay.
So there does seem to be a kind of leisure time thing in there somewhere. It certainly, it seems very reasonable that part of what's going on in people feeling guilty is that they have these pressures to spend their time doing other things. But we don't think that's the whole story. We think there's some other stuff going on about, gaming culture.
Yeah, because when I think of gaming culture, I do think that it has been historically branded as like fairly male. And whether that's like a chicken and the egg piece of it all, where when you brand something and label it as, very, very male, then of course they're going to feel more welcome in those spaces. Those spaces will be catered to them by gaming companies, by lots of external structures. And then women can feel excluded and not join as readily or hide when they're joining it, which is sort of to your point. I grew up in the era of Nintendo. And so something that I remember thinking was, I loved quote unquote kind of like girl games. And that was how I felt. Like I wasn't playing Grand Theft Auto. Like I played a bit of it, like I've tried it, but it was more Mario. It was more like I remember DuckTales. I remember Donkey Kong. I loved Mario Kart, those types of things. But even then it wasn't particularly cool to play them as a girl, whereas it was seen as very cool and acceptable to talk about it for my male classmates. And to your point about the achievements, like they would talk about how far they'd gone in games. And it's just not something that I ever felt like I wanted to really brag about or really even like engage with that much.
Yeah, that seems to be a really common experience. So the paper got picked up and talked about on Reddit and various other places. Yeah. What was really striking is how many women were talking about the guilt that they felt and how they didn't feel like they could talk about it and how they didn't feel like they could share it. And clearly that's not the case for everybody. This is a 30% stat. That's a big stat, but that's not everybody. There are many people who have found their gaming communities and found a place and built friends around that. But I think you're right. Women were twice as likely to feel guilty if they reported in the survey that they felt gaming was a male pastime. So this does seem to be, as you said, there's girl games, right? There's games, simpliciter, and then there are girl games. Likewise, there are games, simpliciter, and casual games. And we do see this sort of women being targeted for a very particular segment of the market rather than being kind of considered amongst the kind of core gaming community. So I think you're right. I think it's a bit of a cyclical thing, like it's feeding decisions by gaming companies and gaming reviewers and people like that do affect this, but also there's a whole bunch of societal pressures that feed it as well.
What percentage of the women that you surveyed said that they really look forward to playing video games in their leisure time?
More than 41%.
So if I'm the CEO of a gaming company, how do I get them to be more engaged with this? How do I kind of break down barriers for them to not feel so guilty about this? Because that's probably going to be better for your business.
Totally. I mean, I think one of the things that is missed in a lot of this conversation is, it's very easy to talk about better representation and thinking in games as a so-called woke issue and whatever. But there's real financial incentive. Yeah. There's real financial opportunity being left on the table here. I mean, I think one promising thing is that this research was sponsored by a game company.
That's not bad.
They funded that to make that possible. And the various gaming companies that Sean and I work with are really well-intentioned. They do, obviously they want to capitalize financially, but they're also interested in making gaming a more kind of inclusive and collaborative space. And things are getting better, but they're getting better slowly. I do think that thinking about marketing games more broadly is a really important thing. Thinking about how to celebrate women's achievements in terms of games is an important thing, because there was this interesting stat where women were more likely to play and were less likely to feel guilty if they reported that they play games to challenge themselves. So it was like it was acceptable for women to play to challenge themselves, but not to be too proud of their achievements, right? That operated in the opposite direction. So celebrating women's achievements, kind of challenging this discourse that when women play, they only play mobile games. Not that there's anything wrong with mobile games, right? They're accessible, they're cheap, they're flexible, we can carry them around with us in our pocket. But, most of the women playing games on their mobiles are also playing games, out of our study, on PC and console. So I think challenging these notions of who it is that plays games, what it is to play a game, and not making the she must play Candy Crush line as the kind of go-to when a woman says, I play games, is a really big part of that puzzle.
If you're a female gamer and you are feeling very represented in this study and its findings and that you feel guilty about it, what kind of would your takeaway be in terms of perhaps getting over that guilt or even just acknowledging that it's there?
I mean, I think we need to see this as part of the bigger problem, right? So this isn't just a gaming problem. It's a patriarchy problem. I mean, it's a societal problem. One of the things we're going to need to do is dismantle these barriers around leisure inequality and make it okay for people to do things that nourish them and, allow them to kind of recharge their energy.
Thank you so much, Steph Rennick. She is a lecturer at the University of Stirling in interactive media. Someone find her some more money so that she can study more of these cool things and then talk to me about them. It has been a real pleasure to speak with you. And I can now say that I've interviewed an actual philosopher. So thank you, Steph.
Even one without the beard. Thank you very much for having me.
Want to be part of The Last Show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Attention all small biz owners. At the UPS Store, you can count on us to handle your packages with care. With our certified packing experts, your packages are properly packed and protected. And with our pack and ship guarantee, when we pack it and ship it, we guarantee it. Because your items arrive safe or you'll be reimbursed. Visit the upsstore.com/guarantee for full details. Most locations are independently owned. Product services, pricing, and hours of operation may vary. See Center for details. The UPS Store. Be unstoppable. Come into your local store today.
Don't let them tell you have to change. Just because you feel a little strange.
Breaking down today's chaos with tomorrow's headlines. The Last Show with David Cooper.
You're listening to The Last Show. I am Caitlin Green, filling in for David Cooper, who is away on vacation at Burning Man. And I am joined now by Dr. Carolyn Baer, an assistant professor of psychology at Trent University, with a specialty in children that I'm very excited to hear about as the proud owner of a toddler myself. Thank you so much for joining me, Carolyn.
Thanks so much, Caitlin.
This is great. So I want to talk about this new study that came out, and it's all about how children weigh confidence in other people's opinions and at what age they do this. And so, I mean, first of all, just to set the tone here, tell me a little bit about your specialty, your work with children, and kind of like how you got there.
Yeah, so I am a developmental cognitive scientist, which is like a super fancy way of saying I am fascinated by questions about how the human mind works and especially where that comes from. So when we're thinking about ourselves as kids, we have minds, you know? It's not as though kids are dramatically different from adults, but they are, you know, a little bit less experienced. There's a little bit more confusion going on in the world. And I'm just fascinated by those kinds of questions of how does that mind work and how does it change over time? So I've been studying this for, several years now. It's been a general topic that's fascinated me and something I think that's super fun because I get to do puppet shows and play games with kids as part of my job. And it's amazing.
I love that. That's probably the nicest form of research you could possibly do.
Oh, absolutely.
So tell me about this study specifically.
Yeah, so this study came about actually from one of the earliest questions that's been interesting me, which is where do original ideas come from?
Okay.
Like, you know, like truly creative thought, it doesn't just appear from nowhere, right? Probably.
Oh, it's inspired by something. And I often wonder if even my own memories are sort of implanted. Like I will wonder about my own memory of an event or a time or even a person. And the way that I try to test it with myself is I will only sort of validate my own memories if there's no photo associated with it. Because if I have seen a family photo over and over and over again in the course of my life, or a video, or had somebody else tell me about it over and over again, then I really feel like that's kind of in a way implanting it in my head. So if nobody else remembers something, there's no photo of it and there's no video, then that's me sort of like scientifically saying, okay, this probably happened and my gut feeling about it is my own.
Yeah, isn't that crazy how we think about how reliable information is based on like, do I have a strong memory of this? Do other people have a strong memory of this? And that's exactly where I started going with this study, is saying that there are a lot of cases in our real lives where there are multiple versions of the truth. There are two people who have kind of different opinions about things. And that might be a really cool place where we recognize that the truth might actually be something kind of in the middle, which is essentially a totally new idea. It could be an original idea no one's ever thought of because it's a combination of two other ideas. And so that's really what inspired this research. One of the examples I like to use when I talk about this, when we're thinking especially about kids, is it's kind of like when you've got two kids who are trying to figure out what to play today. One person's like, I really want to play princesses. Another one's like, well, I want to play dragons today. You think, oh no, they're going to fight about this. We're going to have a giant kerfuffle on our hands. But what can be really cool is we could actually find out, or we could come up with this new idea that maybe we'll play princess dragons today. It's a combination of these two ideas, totally new, but it's something that only came about because we had this disagreement and we came up with this cool original thought.
I love this for kids. And there's a little bit, okay, so I also want to know, how does a study like this actually work? Like, what does it look like? Because again, I am now imagining, as you just outlined, you know, puppet shows, but how do you find kids who are willing to participate in this, parents who are willing to participate in this, and what does like a test group look like?
Yeah, we do a lot of different approaches. So, something about developmental psychology, the field that I'm part of, is we are out in the community. We're engaging with real families wherever they are. So, I do work all over the place, in schools, in libraries, in parks, at public festivals. You'll see me all over the place.
Like with a clipboard just running around?
Basically, we set up like a little booth that's, you know, got some cool stickers on it. And then we have these little laptops that have custom made computer games. And so that's what we actually run our studies on, these little computer games that we make. It's my claim to having any programming skills is that I can make kid-focused computer games. And that's what we actually do to conduct our studies. We go out into the community with our computers, ask people, hey, do you want to do like a little 10-minute game today?
Mm-hmm.
And then we show them these cute little games. This one we lovingly called Monster CSI, and I can tell you why in a bit.
Yes, please do.
That's what we actually do. So we're trying to find real people out in the world who are interested in research, who have nothing to do for 10 minutes and might be interested in being a junior scientist for the day.
That's really cute. And like, how many kids would you have used for this study?
For this study, we did a little over 90 was our sample size. So in developmental psychology, it's kind of tricky because you can't get infinite children for your studies.
Yeah.
So you have to make some tough judgments about what is kind of enough kids I can be really sure that I found something real. And for us in this study, it was about 90 kids. We did a whole bunch of complicated math to figure that out, which we're definitely not going to go into.
And so what did the study ultimately determine?
So we were trying to figure out whether kids could take two different opinions and find a compromise between them, and specifically whether they did that strategically or not.
Yeah.
So I mentioned earlier that we nicknamed the study Monster CSI. And that's because what we actually did in this game is we asked kids to look at this lineup of different potential monster criminals. And we gave them two witnesses who gave some testimony. They're like, I think it was this person, or I think it was this one. But we did it in a really specific way. So I'm gonna talk this out. I actually do some of the voices for this when we program our studies. So what we would get to do often is we'd have one character who'd say something like, I am totally sure it was a monster with 6 spots. Yeah, I know. It was a monster with 6 spots. But then we'd also have another witness who might come along and say, I don't know. Maybe it had 8 spots? I'm not sure. Like maybe it had 8 spots. And notice there's like 2 things I did there. One is that those witnesses disagreed. One said 6 and one said 8. So we have our key disagreement. But the other thing that I did, hopefully noticeably different, is one of those monsters was very confident in their answer. Or one of those witness monsters. Great. Yeah. I've had a lot of practice. The other one was not so confident. And notice that even as adults, we are kind of drawn towards the person with higher confidence.
Always.
Right. Usually confidence is a signal that we should trust people, that they seem to know what they're talking about. And so we know that that's something that kids pay attention to. Actually, as young as like 2 years old. It's kind of crazy how strong that signal is.
For confidence. That's really interesting.
Yeah. It's one of the earliest cues that kids are able to pay attention to of whether someone is being trustworthy. Of course, it doesn't always mean they're being trustworthy, but usually that's what it's supposed to mean. Confidence is supposed to mean you're trustworthy.
Kids are better people. I mean, I see this all the time, but I'm like, kids are better people than adults. And it is an interesting field for you to study because they're new to the world. So they haven't been as heavily influenced. They're a little bit more innocent, and maybe they're not constantly gauging other people's opinions of them in the same way that adults are. So I like this. But I also, taking away from this, that I definitely want to sound really, really confident with my son. If he's picking up on confidence cues at age 2 and he's now 3, I'm really going to have to start selling bedtime to him in like a whole new way. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. We think that all of this is part of kind of a broader suite of like critical thinking skills that kids are developing. So early on, confidence is a super important cue. But it's an important cue because it's supposed to signal that you have a reliable piece of information. And eventually they start to learn that maybe other cues are better. Like if you've consistently been accurate in the past, that's maybe a better cue that you're a reliable source of information.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Carolyn. This has been a really amazing conversation, and I would love to have you back anytime to talk about studies around adorable children and their adorable brains.
Absolutely. I'd love that too.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
At Blinds.com, it's not just about window treatments. It's about you, your style, your space, your way. Whether you DIY or want the pros to handle it all, you'll have the confidence of knowing it's done right. From free expert design help to our 100% satisfaction guarantee, everything we do is made to fit your life and your windows. Because at Blinds.com, the only thing we treat better than windows is you. Visit Blinds.com now for up to 45% off with minimum purchase plus a professional measure at no cost. Rules and restrictions apply.
When the day is done, we're just getting started. The last show with David Cooper.
Welcome back to The Last Show. I'm Caitlin Green, in for David Cooper, and my guest is a travel and lifestyle journalist whose work has appeared in HuffPost, Trip Savvy, Insider, She Knows, the list goes on. Jill Robbins, thank you for joining me today, which is funny to talk about something that isn't quite travel related, but is about an essay that you've written. And the headline caught my attention. I love it so much. Again, it was in Business Insider, and it was sort of under the heading of parenting. And it said, as a teen, I had a few part-time jobs while in school, and I don't want my kids to do the same. I, too, am a parent. My son is 3 years old. I grew up with multiple part-time jobs as a teen as well. And I wonder what I will want and expect for him. So sort of how did you come to this place?
I think a lot of that essay was written from the perspective of, a timestamp of where I'm at right now. And the overarching idea behind it is it all just goes so fast. And when you're a teenager, when you're a kid, you want so badly to be grown up and to move to the next level. And I think, getting a job, earning money, having that step towards independence is something that teenagers want. They're kind of wired that way. And then you've got, the moms and the dads saying, no, wait, slow down. The brakes on. And I think that was where a lot of it came from, and just my realization that, your carefree summers with your kids are really not something that you get to have forever. Life moves fast, and kids grow up and go on to do their own things. And at 15 you can really see that and see what's next. So that was me trying to just hang on to the childhood, even though it doesn't work that way. I wish it did.
So how old are your children now?
I have two 15-year-old boys, and they're sophomores in high school.
Yeah. Okay. And so are they starting to kind of get that spread their wings desire to work, and what kind of jobs are they interested in? What are their friends doing?
It's yes, they are. One of them probably more so than the other, but earning their own, spending money, and just having that increased bit of autonomy is something that appeals to both of them. Their friends are doing things mostly like bussing tables in restaurants or fast food, maybe a little retail, like Walmart, or working at the grocery store, or things like that are the typical teen jobs that I'm hearing about secondhand from my kids.
And so, I think a lot of people probably who read the headline might say to themselves, well, what about, work ethic? What about teaching your kid about saving money? How do you balance sort of those benefits of working, though, with saying, hey, but these years are fleeting and you're only going to get so many summers off. I don't know if we want to rush into that stage.
Yes, and that is very similarly worded to the argument that I've given them in response to jobs, and it completely falls on deaf ears. And I get it. And what you said about work ethic and preparing for the real world, it is very important. And I feel fortunate that I have kids that are interested in getting out there and realizing this is part of the bigger picture of being a member of society. And part of me is very proud that, they have initiative and tenacity and want to do that. But then it's the mama bear that's like, no, it's not time for that yet. We do give them a bit of an allowance. We're not huge allowance givers, and we use an app to help them manage money and budgeting and saving and investing. So, that's something that we have introduced to them. But having a paycheck versus an allowance, I was there. I remember it's different. It's just the next step in adulthood.
So how many jobs did you have when you were growing up, and what was your experience like working while you were in school?
I started work early. My father owned a business. He had a franchise of fast food restaurants, and I worked in the back, cleaning and chopping onions and things like that. And then when I turned 16, I started working at like a drugstore, like a Walgreens type store, like CVS. It was called Eckerd Drug. They don't have the chain anymore. It was rolled into one of the bigger chains. And then when I was 18, I worked in a coffee shop.
Okay,
Like
so yeah.
like a diner type place. I always worked. It was something that my father really drilled into me as being important to do, to get that work experience, to teach me responsibility. I was not as academically and extracurricular focused as my kids are. I was a little directionless in high school. I wasn't. I graduated college summa cum laude, but I graduated high school by the skin of my teeth. So getting good grades, it's true. I don't like to admit that, but I just wasn't really that worried about my grades in high school. I was writing angsty poetry and short stories in my spiral notebook while the teacher was talking about algebra and French and those things.
You were a
And then
writer. You were like, I'm a writer who's being shoved.
I've always been a writer. I just it took me a while to get around to it being an actual profession, but it wasn't. I wasn't focused on school. I didn't have any strong interest in athletics or extracurricular activities like they do now. So it wasn't as much of a juggling act for me. It was work and school and friends and hanging out.
Yeah, because it's a real 180 for you, having grown up working quite a few jobs and sort of having that put down as a priority by your parents, to then come to this conclusion when you yourself are a parent to say, hey, I'm going to look back on this and go like, well, maybe this isn't what I recommend, because there are only so many hours in the day. And I feel like there's a lot of time spent focusing on homework. There's a lot of time spent focusing on extracurriculars. The extracurriculars are increasingly important when you're doing your university applications, volunteer hours. So when you factor in having a job, I don't know how you would accomplish all of these things. And also then, tell your kid, hey, I need you to go prioritize this as well. I don't know how you would do it.
I don't either. And my kids are bright and tenacious and, all the things that all parents say their kids are. But, everything just seems accelerated now. It's not like when I was in high school, or maybe when you were in high school. They started, pressuring them. Pressuring might not be the greatest choice of words, but the system is asking them to take a look at what you want to do beyond high school before you enter your 9th grade year. So everything it's just a lot. And, they're already, they're 15. They don't know what they want to do. They probably have some idea, but there's enough pressure to, get good grades, excel in athletics, they both contribute to our household and, doing their part around the house. Do we really want to add a job to the mix during the school year? I always tell them your job is school.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we may let them work this coming summer.
Okay.
When they're 16 versus 15, they'll be Lord of mercy, they'll be driving next summer where they're not driving right now. So that's, it's a burden on me to, take, I feel like, I think I put this in the article. I feel like I live in my car anyway, taking them to all the places that they need to go already, and adding 2 different workplaces and 2 different schedules to that makes my head spin. But I think the summer is going to be different. And while they're 15, they can legally work in our state, but a lot of businesses are hesitant to hire 15-year-olds because there's more work restrictions on, making sure they don't, work too many hours. And a lot of businesses will just set the cutoff at 16 and not be as eager to hire someone who they have to, dot more I's to have on their work roster.
Thank you again for joining me. This was so great.
It's my pleasure. Thanks.
That's it for tonight's edition of The Last Show. I'm Caitlin Green, and I want to thank you so much for spending your evening with us. Remember, you can always catch past episodes and anything you might have missed from tonight's show, because we are, of course, a podcast, so you can find us wherever you listen or at lastshow.pizza. Be sure to join us tomorrow. We're going to dive into the biggest headlines in technology. We'll unpack the mystery of the Umbrella Man conspiracy and explore why tarot cards and astrology have become completely mainstream. Until then, thanks for listening and have a great night.
The end. For 4 years, Noah and Sarah have been clawing out from beneath the Denver airport. They have faced monsters, secret armies, and killing machines. But they're done running. This season on Escaping Denver, the truth is revealed. Captives become legends, and a war 1,000 years in the making erupts around them. Join us for the end of our story.
The final season of Escaping Denver drops August 11th on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and wherever you find your favorite podcasts.